Hello! Today, we'll be showing you how to replace the motherboard in a Lenovo N21 Chromebook. First, you will need a few tools. An anti-static mat is recommended to prevent electrostatic discharge, which can damage electronic parts. A small, magnetic tip Phillips head screwdriver will be necessary for this replacement. A spudger will also come in handy during this replacement. You can use either plastic or metal, whichever you prefer. If you have tweezers, you might also want to have them handy, as they may be useful when dealing with small parts. The first step will be to remove the 4 rubber feet from the bottom cover. Next, you will remove the 10 bottom cover screws. Now, you will use a spudger to carefully pry up the palm rest assembly. Next, you will disconnect the keyboard cable from the motherboard. Now, you will disconnect the touchpad cable from the motherboard. Next, you will disconnect the battery cable from the motherboard. Now, you will disconnect the data cable from the motherboard. Next, you will disconnect the 2 Wi-Fi antenna cables from the Wi-Fi card. Next, you will disconnect the motherboard to daughterboard cable from the motherboard. Carefully peel the cable from the battery once it's disconnected. Now, you will disconnect the DC jack cable and the speaker cable from the motherboard. Next, you will remove the Wi-Fi card screw and then remove the Wi-Fi card. Now, you will remove the 5 motherboard screws. Now, you will loosen the 2 heat shield screws and then remove the heat shield from the motherboard. Next, you will remove the 2 hinge screws from each of the 2 hinges. You can now remove the top assembly and then remove the motherboard. The first step in the installation of your replacement motherboard will be to set the motherboard into place and replace the 5 motherboard screws. Now, you will set the heat shield into place on the motherboard and tighten the 2 heat shield screws. Next, you will set the top assembly into place and then replace the 2 hinge screws in each of the 2 hinges. Now, you will replace the Wi-Fi card and the Wi-Fi card screw. Next, you will reconnect the data cable to the motherboard. Now, you will reconnect the 2 Wi-Fi antenna cables to the Wi-Fi card. Next, you will reconnect the motherboard to daughterboard cable to the motherboard. Next, you will reconnect the DC jack cable and the speaker cable to the motherboard. Now, you will reconnect the battery cable to the motherboard. Next, you will reconnect the touchpad cable on the bottom of the palm rest assembly to the motherboard. Now, you will reconnect the keyboard cable to the motherboard. Next, you will snap the palm rest assembly back into place. Now, you will replace the 10 bottom cover screws. The final step will be to replace the 4 rubber feet on the bottom cover. You have now successfully replaced the motherboard in your Lenovo Chromebook. Good job!